You know, that's one of the staples of verbal judo is flexibility. And I really appreciate you guys being flexible because we're going to talk about that this morning. How's everyone doing this morning?
Great.
Everybody's got a workbook?
Yep.
Then we can get you, here you go. Everybody has a pen, hopefully to write in the workbook because you'll need that opportunity. Well, welcome to Verbal Judo. Before we get started, I have a question for you. How many of you believe that change is difficult? Change is difficult. So you guys, I'm supposed to teach you until noon today. What if I told you halfway through this morning session, we're going to take a break anyway? Anybody got a problem with that? No. Wait a minute. You just told me change is difficult, and that's change. How come that's not difficult? How come you said change is difficult? How come that's not difficult?
It's something we want.
It's something we like. So we're going to talk about it's a matter of perspective. And your name is, sir?
Lance.
Lance?
Yes.
Lance, your job is to stop me at, let's say, 10:40, and we'll take at least a 10-minute break, okay? And he's even putting it in his phone, I tell you. Lance, I could see we're going to get along just fine. How many of you had never even heard of verbal judo? And you wondered, what the hell are they sending me to? And what is this mess? And for all those hours, well, I guarantee you, you're going to learn something today. We're going to have fun. I want to answer your questions. So I have a question for each of you in just a moment. Excuse me. A little bit about myself. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. Go Giants. Any Dodger fans? Good. I attended De Anza High School and graduated, attended Eastern Oregon University College in La Grande. But before I did that, I actually went into the National Guard, and I had basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. The only time I've been there, so it wasn't a pleasant opportunity. I also worked on a hotshot fire crew. Fought a fire in Vernal, Utah. Yeah, it was the strangest thing. We were coming off of 50 days of working straight, and we were headed home. And we looked out the plane window and said, hey, that looks like a fire down there. And then the plane banked, and we went, oh no. So I fought forest fires. I had almost 35 years with Oregon State Parks as a manager. And so Oregon State Parks is one of 2 state park systems that don't carry weapons. So we had to figure out how to get people to understand why it was in their best interest to follow our instructions, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I also worked for the Portland Trailblazers. You know, there was a time when in the arena they had beer gardens. One of the worst things you can do, because what do people do at beer gardens? They get up just before halftime and they rush to the beer garden and they drink as much as they can because they can't take it back to their seat. And guess what? We were running into problems in the second half. So I actually supervised the alcohol monitors once we started allowing alcohol taken to the seats. I now volunteer. I'm on SOLVE, Stop Oregon Litter and Vandalism, board member, Friends of the Gorge, Land Trust, Parks Forever, and I try to golf. Any golfers? One of the most difficult. Well, we like to call ourselves golfers.
You've been having a hard time keeping a job, is that it?
you know, you're going to get to know that in just a moment. Okay, now, here's, Jason, if I could have you take some notes, please. We're going to do this fairly quickly because I'm going to condense 8 hours into 6. And what that means is we won't get an opportunity to practice, which we typically would, but I'm going to tell you, your practice doesn't end today. But I'd like for each of you to introduce yourselves very quickly, briefly describe the work that you do, any hobbies, little known facts. I'll give you my little known fact now. My mother had 8 boys. And then she said, screw this, I'll wait on the granddaughter, our grandson, our granddaughter. Unfortunately, I was number 7 of 8, so very low on the pecking order. And then what would you like to take away from this class? Some people say, I want go-to phrases. Some people say, I want to learn how to not take it personally. So, Lance, we're going to start you out, my friend.
Great. Yeah, I work in Salt Lake County in independent aging, and I'm the supervisor over our congregate team. We drive out to the senior centers every day, and then I'm also in charge of the fleet. But I'm in a point where I'm supposed to learn to help the drivers with the ambulatory and wheelchair customers. So
Yeah.
I just would like to learn that because I've driven, for the past few years for this county too.
Okay.
And my hobbies, fly fishing, skiing. So I'm always driving past this city.
So you live in a good state for
Yeah,
all
I
of
live
that.
in
Good
a
for
great
you.
state of what I like to do.
Good for
And
you.
Take out of classes the verbal abuse, not how to take it personally. Had a lot of it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. It seems to be increasing. And I'm going to try to speed us up if we can, folks.
My name is Shayna. I work for Tooele County Transportation, and I'm a dispatcher for them. So I take phone calls, schedule rides, that type of thing for the most part. Hobby is I live on a little farm. I raise sheep. We have horses, dogs, pigs, etc. So that's my hobby. And I also would like to learn how to not take things personal and de-escalation as far as being on the other end of the phone goes.
Very good. You know, one of the things you're going to learn today is a plan. You got policies and procedures for just about everything, don't you? Use of a cell phone, use of a vehicle, sick leave. But what we don't teach people is how to deal with difficult people. We shove them out the door, and they make stuff up as they go along. And some people like to use the other S word. I'll let you choose, okay? But as we're all making stuff up independently, guess what? Our customers are confused. They don't know what side is up and which side is down. Thank you.
My name's Lisa. I also work for Tooele County Transportation. I'm one of the drivers. I haul a lot of handicapped people, so I'm always tying down chairs and making sure everybody's safe. My hobbies is we have horses, and so I enjoy dealing with them. And what I'd like to take away is how to not let it get under my skin.
Skin. Very
And
good.
not go home with a headache because I've just bottled it.
We're going to talk about that. I'm glad you said that.
My name's Mary Beth Mills. I'm from the UNA and Ori Reservation. I drive transit bus. I've been working there for quite a long time. And let's see, what we do is we transport our fixed routes in the morning and at evening. During that off time, we take passengers wherever they need to go, if they need to go to town or stuff. Or we take trips out of state for those who request drivers. And my hobbies are driving. And what would I like to take away from this is to probably learn how to cope with difficult people and to be able to speak to them.
Very good.
My name is Julie Tamayor. I'm from the Youth Drive Transit Department, and I also do a fixed route and do the same thing she does. And I've been there for 3 years. My hobbies are outdoor, yard work, My grandsons, I have two of them, they keep me busy.
How old are they?
They're teenagers, 13 and 15.
Ooh,
So we like to do camping and outdoor stuff and boating. But I would like to learn how to stay neutral in the conflicts within the office and our coworkers.
very
Not
good.
get caught up in drama.
Very good. And just so you both know, I'm actually headed to Montana in a week and a half to teach the Cree tribe.
I'm Patrick. I work for the Utah Independent Living Center down in South Salt Lake. I drive for them, driving consumers around. I also teach classes there at the center. Hobbies, I coach hockey and I play golf as well. And what I'd like to take away, just understanding completely people's perceptions, whether it be a consumer or coworker.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm Bob James, and I'm retired and haven't a clue why I'm here. I do some artwork, and I like to fix things. And to take away from the class, I've always been good at just kind of ignoring people that give me a bad time, and I just kind of put it off. And I try not to take things personally, and I'm pretty good at it.
And we're going to talk about as a group, unaddressed behavior is condoned behavior. We could be setting our fellow workers up for a bad situation because our customers often like to use well, I just saw Lance and he didn't say anything. Why are you now saying so?
I'm here to monitor the class.
And really, thank you very much. I owe you.
The subject was so exciting to me. I am anxious to learn. And I'm just a homemaker, and I've been in my job for 62 years.
Good for you.
Never
There's no
just.
such thing as just a homemaker.
Yeah.
We have 4 great-grandchildren, and they're kind of our hobby.
And how old are they?
Probably about 2, 4, 6, and 8, and something like that. And the takeaway from the class, if not letting things get under my skin, I will do that.
And I'm going to shock you folks. Verbal judo works on your kids because we're going to talk about that. And I brought your grandkids a gift. I've got Junior Ranger Beaver tattoos.
Oh.
And there's a 5th one in there for the 5th kid.
Great,
The
thank
5th
you.
kid.
And he is.
And hopefully you folks will grab tattoos for your children, or grandchildren, or nieces or nephews. And I want to say, there's a reason that I carry these, folks. It softens any contact I had to make. We're going to talk about if the only time you're engaging your customer is when they're doing something wrong, then we're doing something wrong, okay? Yes, please.
I work for High Valley Transit as a trainer supervisor, some training new employees and existing employees. I like golf, I like to be outdoors, I'm not gonna golf, but I like it. I like to learn how to de-escalate,
So you want just to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
Very good. Sir?
I'm just part-time down at Emory County.
Nobody's just anything. You're in this, hey, we're all in it together.
Handyman at the Emory County Senior Center.
And what would you like to get out of the course, sir?
Whatever you can give me.
Then what's your name?
Kevin Pierce. Good name.
That's going to be easy to remember, Kevin.
I'm Melanie, I'm the director of the Emory County Senior Center. I've been there for 18 years, and basically what we try to do is just the seniors that are still living at home, we want to get them out and have a social life and, so we'll bus them day trips, things like that. So my hobbies are my 2 little grandkids. It's just my life anymore, and then I just like to take away from the classes that sometimes we have the seniors that get really frustrated or, you know, and to de-escalate and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So
yeah.
we've had fist fights and.
Thank you very much, sir.
My name is Bill. I'm from Bergen Senior Center. Only been there about 3 months. Hobbies, live down there by Sand Hollow, so I went up and bought me a side-by-side and all that sand out there. And personal, I worked at FedEx for 40 years. I just can't stop driving. I tried to leave and it just sucked me right in.
Yeah, they suck you right back in.
And I get out of this class and just tell everybody, well, it's not for me, but all you gotta do is say no. Where I'm at, they don't like that, you know? They want to go here or there, and I'm like, nope, I got a set schedule from working at FedEx. Boom, 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 and they're like, oh, no, no. I'm like, nope, nope, nope.
Sorry, we'll talk about how to present that in a way so that it's not sometimes people, the message
it
we,
pretty hard.
right, the message we intend to send isn't always the message that's received, so.
I'm Marty. I work for Options for Independence in Logan, Utah. I'm an independent living coordinator for visually impaired and blind. And I transport them around with low vision support services and get them to and from appointments and different things that way. Hobbies, I love to bake and cook. Little known fact about myself is I own shares in a gold mine. And out of our class, I would love to be able to know how to better de-escalate between consumers on the van.
Very good.
My name is Sherry. I also work for Options for Independence. I'm the youth program coordinator there. I transport them to activities, classes, things like that. Hobbies, I don't know. I like cooking and baking as well. Paddleboarding, kayaking, yes, I do like that. And I'm with him. I'm here to learn whatever you have to teach.
All righty then.
Take it all.
Very good.
I'm Deanna Ortiz with Options for Independence in Logan as well. I'm an independent living coordinator, and I do help with transportation to activities and transport my consumers to appointments and things like that. I would like to also learn just kind of how to best approach difficult situations when there's conflict, when consumers feel like they're not getting what they want, or they just kind of how to present that better.
Mhm.
I want to learn that. I love the outdoors. I love running. I love moving. So I love running and dancing and hiking and singing. And I'm very eclectic in terms of what I love.
Good.
My name is Natalie Dutry. I work for Options for Independence in the Brigham City satellite office. So I'm with these ladies, but I'm in Brigham. And I've worked there for 12 years or so. I get to assist pretty much all these ladies in their programs. I'm a program assistant, and I also have an office job where I help with the AP going out.
Sorry.
I like to sleep. I do like to sleep. But I like to ski and hike and snowboard and anything outside. I love the sun. I like seeing the sun. And I just want to learn how to manipulate minds. Well, that's why I'm here. Judo, it sounded like mind manipulation.
It's, well,
It's
you
all
know, and,
perception. You can make
and,
people think anything you want.
and I'm here to share with you folks, it's not just about our customers sometimes. Sometimes it's the baggage that we bring to the table. And so, you know, we're going to talk about your known strengths. Your strengths are built on your known weaknesses, because we all have them. And so we'll talk about that. Yes.
My name is Maggie Pico, and I'm also with Options. I'm a recreational coordinator, so we take our consumers to do fun things all the time. And I've been there for 16 years. I drive also. My hobbies are dirt biking and snowmobiling. And I want to learn to deal with my witty husband. He just said to me, "What are you taking?" And I said, verbal judo. And this is what he texted me back. "Haha, can't wait to hear about that. You should do good. You never shut your mouth and your last name is Asian." It's like, that's what I want to learn to deal with.
We'll talk about that, all right? I may need a little longer than 6 hours with you, though.
And medication.
My name is Julia Anderson. I am a dispatcher, scheduler, sub driver on the fixed route, air transit driver. I do payroll. And I've been there for almost 2 years. I'm a goat farmer, and I used to drive heavy equipment transport for 15 years before that, so professional driver. I am a difficult person, so I just like to learn how to de-escalate instead of escalate.
You know, I'm glad to see a fellow difficult person, because I am one also. And we'll talk, I think most of you are, you just don't realize it.
I'm Art Smith and I just arrived. I left Logan at 6:15 this morning to give you an idea what the traffic is like.
Uh-oh.
I drive, I take care of the building, and I work with 16 ladies and I'm the only gentleman. So I have to protect myself, so I guess.
So this course is really important to you.
I love it, I work with them, they're great people, and I enjoy it.
He's yet to cry in staff meeting, though.
And what would you like to get out of,
You did cry. You did, I've seen it.
and what would you like to get out of the class?
What I'd like to get out of this class, I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna check back in with you, all right?
Nels Holmgren, I'm with the State Division of Aging and Adult Services. So we work with the 12 area agencies that do most of the aging services around the state. I have 5 kids, so that's most of my hobby is just fixing things and paying for things and running around. What I'd like to take away from the class is just how to not make things worse by saying something dumb, which is my go-to.
We're gonna talk about if it felt good, you shouldn't have said it.
Yeah.
And there are those times that we make ourselves feel good by saying something.
Yeah, Frank Davis, driver for 6 counties, driver down there and for 6 counties, Sevier County. That's what I do. Briefly, yeah, that's what I do, drive, so. Hobbies, I like outdoor recreation. I'd just like to take away from this class how to deal with all kinds of folks.
Good, good. I'm sorry. I'm gonna need you to dial it up at times, because, you know, there's the wallflower and the cowboy. You know what cowboys are like, don't you? They're like cheap toilet paper. They're not taking stuff off of anybody. But there are times when, in certain situations, honestly, folks, we need to dial it up a little bit. Can you imagine? Could you please have you put your dog on a leash? Is he going to listen to that? No. So let's try that again.
All right, my name's Lindsay Green. I'm usually not quiet.
All right,
I'm
Lindsay.
I'm from Birchfield Care Center in Richmond, Utah. I've been there for 14 years. I just recently started driving the bus. Last 2 years? I don't know. I am a scoutmaster for the BSA for our girls troop. And I'm hoping I can do some of this with us very difficult scouts that are just getting in.
We're going to work on that. Thank you, Lindsay.
My name is Sharon Mello, and I work at the Richmond Care Center also. I've been there for about 14 years. I've been driving for about 7. I do appointments for all the residents. My hobbies, I like to go ATV, and I like to do some rock tumbling. And what I like to take away from this class is just how to handle conflict better.
Good.
I'm Tracy Hammond. I'm Activity Director at
And Scott?
Jason.
Jason, I'm sorry.
Oh, my.
Go.
Oh. I was just described. Jason Green. Let's see. I have been in the industry for about 20 years and really kind of focused on transit for about 15. My hobbies. A 15-year-old girl that I feel like I spend most of my time just driving her around. She calls me Uber Dad. And it really is a Uber Dad situation. Something interesting about myself. I also love the outdoors. Camp, fly fish, and golf. Let's see. Something interesting about me. Most people that know me know that I'm kind of a fanatic about Elvis Presley. It's a weird thing. Illness. And what I'd like to take away from this class, you know, lots of things, but one thing I would say is I have a tendency to take things personally. You know, for whatever reason, internalize things, maybe just let it kind of fester in the brain.
Yeah.
So how to deal with that?
Okay. And write that down now. And would you post those on the wall? Thank you, folks, for sharing that. And by the way, Jason, I want to tell you, I have a 25-year-old stepson. He graduated a few years back from Western Washington University. And one of the best days of my life was when he got his driver's license.
Yes.
I got to tell you, I asked him, where's my letter for the swim team? Because I went to every practice. I was at every meet because I had to chauffeur him around. We're going to get through some of this, and then I know Lance is going to be on top of our break. Want to talk very quickly about Dr. George Thompson, who developed verbal judo. Dr. Thompson was an English literature teacher. They called him Doc Rhino. But he was also a black belt in judo and taekwondo. And he had a friend who was a police officer. Because, let's be honest, verbal judo was initially developed for police officers. And why? Because they were showing up to situations and making things worse. We see that in society today, where police officers actually show up and escalate situations. And Dr. Thompson went on a ride-along with one of his police friends, and he watched this officer simply speak to people and gain compliance. And he'd get back in the car and he'd ask, how did you do that? And he goes, I don't know, I just do it. And so Dr. Thompson thought it would be best if he developed a form of communication that looked at de-escalating situations as opposed to escalating them. So he combined the East, judo and jiu-jitsu, with the West, Milton and Shakespeare, and he came up with this language. And Doc used to have this saying, because when things go right and you use verbal judo, he would say, whoosha! And what that means is working on our speech habits and actions. And we'll talk more about that. And Doc passed away, unfortunately, due to throat cancer. I was fortunate enough to take the last instructor class that he put together because I taught within Oregon State Parks for 15, 20 years because we would go through a 4-day instructor course. So that's an option if any of you folks are interested, and then you can train within your organization. The mission of Verbal Judo Institute is to create a safer, and that's an acronym that I'll explain here in a minute, world by delivering practical and easy-to-learn strategies which empower people to effectively de-escalate conflict and potential violence. De-escalation is a process of using strategies and techniques intended to decrease the intensity of the situation. Now, I'm going to give you anything in red, that's where you have to fill out in your workbook. So can everybody turn to that page, and I want to give you a few seconds to fill out those particular blanks. Can everyone see that okay? You guys in the back of the room have much better eyesight than mine anymore, I'll tell you. Maybe I'll get them to turn the music down here in a moment.
You know what? I know how to do it.
Oh, okay. So, if you showed up to this morning thinking you were going to learn to karate chop people with your words, nothing could be further from the truth. We'll talk in a minute about verbal judo, which is deflection and redirection. But verbal karate, the difference between verbal judo and verbal karate is the unprofessional use of language, the use of personal feelings. Me, mine, I. Those are the types of terms that you use in those sense. As we just mentioned, the use of self-referential language, not in contact with your audience. Because, folks, we're going to talk about being not only in contact with your organization, but being in contact with your customer as well, because you need to be. And typically you're off target, versus verbal judo, which is the use of words to achieve a professional objective. You know, when you show up to a situation or you're dealing with a situation, you're not there to see if it's going to work out. You're there to make it work out. And we're going to talk about some of the tools to do that. In contact with your audience. In contact, and sometimes what that means is showing empathy. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. We'll talk about that. Skillful communication that's on target. I'll give you a moment to write this in. So, verbal judo, the mastery of communication and redirecting behavior with words. Again, it's interesting. Judo, J-U, the prefix means gentle, flexible. Do, the suffix, means way. So judo means gentle, flexible way. And in fact, judo was developed by a master because his karate students, which is more of a contact martial arts, were getting hurt. And so he developed judo as a way of deflection and redirection, not impact. Maximum efficiency and maximum effectiveness with minimum effort. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you have ever sat at your job one day and thought, I don't have anything else to do. I'm finished with everything. You working that job? Because I've never seen anybody working that job. Isn't there always something else to do that we could be doing? And so that's that maximum. We're going to talk about maximum efficiency with maximum effectiveness with minimum effort. It's a contact art, and I don't mean physically. It's a contact art by engaging our customers, our clients, our children. Mastery through adaptation. Most people use natural language. Verbal judo is professional language, Dr. Thompson used to quote us. And can anybody tell me what that little animal is? That's the verbal judo mascot. A chameleon. And what does a chameleon do? It adapts to its environment. Why does it adapt to its environment?
To survive.
To survive.
That's one.
Not only to survive, but to become a prayer, so that it can attack too. So we ask you to adapt to the situation. And what's one of the most constant violations that you folks deal with in your daily? We had in state parks our dirty dozen. You know, dogs off leash, failure to pay fee, they always rose over and over. What's one of yours? What do you deal with daily? Lance? What do you deal with on a daily basis? What, I mean, okay, but what's the issue that you deal with people?
I keep hearing more
Hmm?
I keep hearing more attitude in even just everyday phone calls. Sometimes people just have like an attitude out there when they call.
Expectations out of our abilities.
Expectations out of your ability. And so we can sometimes get frustrated that we have to answer those questions over and over again. I want you to remember something very important, folks. If you say that to 10 people in one day, and I'm number 10, that's my first time hearing it. That's my first time hearing it. So if you got attitude, guess what you're going to get back from me? We should sound the same way the first, the fifth, the seventh, the 10th time that we say it. And, you know, I always prided myself. If people didn't like the information I provided, not my problem, their problem, because I'm always going to be polite, professional, and courteous. The smile is always going to be on my face, okay? I'm going to treat everybody with respect, okay? So, I think I have a video for you to watch. Let's see if we can make this work. I'm going to have to do a little control. I think that's it. Look how quickly he changes to adapt. Look at how the tip of the head starts to turn black already. Pretty amazing, huh? Wonder why that went back. Okay, let's talk about the goals of the course. I'm going to allow you to write those in very briefly. Everyone get those written in? The number one goal of this course is your personal safety. Who's the most important person at work today?
Nobody? Or myself, I guess.
You guess?
Yeah.
Here, let me try it again. Who's the most important person at work today?
Myself.
See, you ask a selfish person and you'll get a selfish answer. Kevin, who's the most important person at work today? Huh? Why don't you just kiss up a little bit more, okay? Lance, who's the most important person at work today?
Our customer.
Lance, let me give you a hint. You know Mr. Selfish right here? He had it right. You are the most important people at work today, folks. There is absolutely, positively nothing that you should be asked to do in the course of your job that you place your health and well-being at risk. Absolutely nothing. You are the most important people at work, and we need to act like it. You know, in Oregon state parks, we mow a lot of grass. In the spring, that grass gets wet and slippery, and sometimes the mower starts to slide on it. Which side of the mower do you think our rangers jumped off on? No, we wish they did. They jumped off on the low side to stop the mower. The mower can be replaced. People can't. The reason for that, folks, is they reacted instead of responded. And we're going to talk a little bit about responding instead of reacting. So, let me ask again. Kevin, who's the most important person at work today? Me. Oh, see? Yeah. Who do you think number 2 is, Kevin? Myself. Man, you are selfish, aren't you? Who do you think number 2 is? Who do you think the second most important people at work are today?
Well, the 3, me, myself, and I.
You guys are too selfish. Who's the second most important people at work today?
Family.
Your family doesn't work with you. Oh, do they? Who's the second most important people at work today? If you are the most important person, who's number 2? You don't care about the people who works with this guy? Yeah, it's the people you work with, isn't it? Unless you work with him, huh? Folks, who do you think number 3 is?
Customer.
Not just the customer, the good customer. Maybe you don't deal with the bad customer, but I put them at a number 4. So you are the most important people at work today. We're going to talk about enhanced professionalism. Dr. Thompson used to have a saying, it's not enough to look good, sound good, you got to be good or no good, okay? Because we'll talk about, we work in a fishbowl. Decrease complaints. You know, I started with Oregon State Parks in 1983. How many of you weren't even born when I started in state parks? You all were? Oh, yeah, we got to, oh, I should have known. Here, I'm going to talk to you directly. Did you know it used to take a lot for people to complain? You know what they had to do? They had to go home, they had to sit down at a desk, and they had to write a letter. And then they took that letter and they put it in an envelope. And then they put a stamp on that envelope and they took it, you know what a post office is? When was the last time you guys went to the post office? Oh, see? Most people don't, though. And then that letter would work its way through our system, and it would get to me. And as a manager, you know what I would do? I'd sit down at a desk and write a letter back. Not anymore. I looked at your website this morning. Every website has those two words. What are they? Contact us. You betcha. And people like to contact us when things go wrong, don't they? They really do. Contact us is an opportunity. We've had rangers who were in campgrounds, and before they could get back to the office, a complaint was filed because we all carry computers, don't we? We all carry them. So, you know, I used to have a supervisor who used to remind me of something important. He used to say, Kevin, if you didn't find the time to do it right the first time, how are you going to find the time to do it over? So I used to do it right the first time. Decrease vicarious liability. Let's be honest, folks. Some people would rather sue than work. People look for opportunities to sometimes get free money. Lessen stress, not just on the job, but for those grandkids too, okay, and great-grandkids. It lessens stress. You know, some of you said, I don't want to take stuff personally. Sometimes I let it ride. We're going to talk about that deflection and redirection aspect. Court power and articulation. You know, in my job, I used to actually go to court and provide testimony. And so this was an opportunity. This process, how many of you write reports? I'm going to give you an opportunity because we all have those situations that we do need to write a report on a situation. I'm going to give you how that might flow, okay? Morale. You know what? If we're all doing it right, then that's good morale. You know, again, unaddressed behavior is condoned behavior. And so we should not look the other way. I believe in politely calling people out at times, and there were times when I pulled people to the side. And how many of you, some of you mentioned office situations, drama. And sometimes, you know, I would simply say, you know, Lance, when we were meeting this morning, you made some comments that may have been considered rude and condescending. Now, is that the way you meant to come across? That initiates a conversation. Did I attack him? I gave him an opportunity to respond to, is that the way you intended the message to be delivered? Because that's typically not like you, Lance. So it's an opportunity. And we're going to talk goals of the course, improve outcomes. You know, I'm going to ask you, when possible, to look for win-win situations. Unfortunately, we grow up in a society that if I win, you lose, and if you win, I lose. There are times when we can do win-win situations. Not all the time, but look for those opportunities. Traits of a professional. I'm going to allow you to write this down. Okay, number one is high visibility. How are you folks identified? You wear a name tag, you wear some type of shirt that identifies you, or nothing? Nothing at all. Yes, you are unforgettable. So, and we're going to talk a little bit later about why that's even more important that you introduce yourself so that people know who you are and what position you have. Because sometimes people forget, especially at my age, and sometimes other people are listening on the periphery, and they may not understand the dynamics of the situation. But high visibility. We talk about quick decisions. Folks, one of the things we're going to learn today is what we call bait. People will give you information to help them. We just have to listen for it. And I'm going to teach you how to extract it. But quick decisions. I want to give you an example. I was in the park one morning and I saw a dog off leash. And you're going to understand this term in a minute. It's showtime. Folks, everything matches. The face, the other nonverbals. And I walked up to this young lady and I said, ma'am, good morning, ma'am. My name's Kevin Price. I'm a park manager with Oregon Parks and Rec Department. The reason I stopped by today was I noticed your dog off a leash in an area where dogs need to be on a leash. Is there a justified reason for that? And the woman looked at me and she started to cry. And she said, this is my dog of 15 years. I'm on the way to the vet to have him put down. And I just thought I would let him have one last run. Now, Mr. Sensitivity here would have said, ma'am, I can save you a vet bill. That's not what you want to say. Just picking with you. That's not what you... So, what do you think my response was? What do you think my response was, Kevin?
I understand.
Let him run.
I agree.
You don't think I said, ma'am, Oregon Administrative Rule 736-0. Huh? And by the way, you're laughing, but some of us use that weak excuse of, it's the rules. And I got to tell you something, I didn't like it when my mother said it because I said so. I'm not going to like it if you say it. What do you think my response was, Lance?
Let him run.
Let him run.
Really?
I think he said, I understand where you're coming from and why you would want to give him, but this is our policy.
My response was, ma'am, I hope the rest of your day goes better. Folks, my first day on the job, my boss, Leroy Schwartout, told me, he said, I do not pay you to think. I pay you to do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. And being on trial service, I said, sure, you're the boss. Folks, you're paid to think. You're paid to look at situations and make a decision. In Oregon State Parks, on a scale of nuclear holocaust to burnt toast, where do you think most of our rules set? Huh? Burnt toast. We're not nuclear. We don't deal with murder. We don't deal with rape laws. We don't deal with any of that. We were mandatory reporters, but it's burnt toast. We're paid to think. I looked at that situation. Now, something that I could see that you couldn't see, that dog couldn't move from this table to me. He was on death's door. Can you imagine how traumatic that would have been to her if I had responded? It's the rules, flexibility, quick decision making, okay? I clicked the switch from enforcement to information. I hope the rest of your day goes better. And you know what they say, when people have a bad experience, they tell 7 people. And each of those people tell 7 people. Is that something we're going to talk about here at the end, your bank account? Codified body of knowledge. We should be able to verbalize why we have an expectation of our customer. And by the way, put it in a way so that they understand why it's important to them. Why do you think we have a leash law in society for dogs?
To have order and not
To have order.
to not have the dog, well, You know what he does. So.
Well, now what does that mean to me as a pet owner? How about this? Sir, the reason we have a leash rule is we've had dogs that have been off leash attack other dogs and attack other visitors, and those owners have been held financially responsible. Who in here wants to be held financially responsible? And by the way, sir, some of the dogs have actually run into the roadway or got entangled with some of our wildlife, and they haven't fared so well. That looks like a mighty fine animal. I certainly wouldn't want anything to happen to it. We need to start thinking about why it benefits our customer, no matter what, and start looking at it in those terms and explaining what they get out of it. People are selfish by nature. We want to know what's in it for us, okay? Continuous training. Navy SEALs are elite because they continually train, and I will say to you, your training in verbal judo, I used to, when I first learned this process, I would line the crew out in the morning, and then I would give them 5 minutes to practice. Because practice makes perfect. And I got to tell you something, I'm going to teach you a process. But the moment you get pushed, and you will, and I don't mean physically, we revert back to what's most comfortable for us. I'm going to ask you to stay on the yellow brick road, Dorothy. That's all you have to do. If you stay on that road, yellow brick road, everything will work out. We talked about adapting to change. Ethical standard of conduct. Be what you represent. Be what you represent. And your agency emblem, your ID, who you work for, is a badge of public trust. We all have bank accounts, right? So if you make more withdrawals than you do deposits, what happens to your bank account? Yeah, you're overdrawn, and then you're really paying penalties. Folks, our communication styles work the same. I like to make more deposits, good deposits with our customers than I do withdrawals. Because, by the way, I might not know when I might meet one of their relatives in the future, one of their friends that they've communicated that they've had a bad experience with me. Or one of my fellow workers might end up in that situation. So we always pay it forward in a sense. I treat everybody, we treat people like ladies and gentlemen, not because they are, but because we are. We treat people like ladies and gentlemen. What am I giving away? What am I giving away? I just talked to you about showtime. It's a term that's used to mentally prepare yourself for the task at hand. It reminds you only to use your professional face and not your personal face, and we'll talk about those two, and to generate voluntary compliance, GVC. Showtime. You're an actor on stage and verbal judo is your script. You're an actor on stage and verbal judo is the script. We work in a fishbowl. You know, I have a pharmacy in Safeway in Salem, and I'm always amazed. When I walk from the front of the store to that pharmacy, I pass 17 cameras. I look for them, just out of curiosity to see where they are. How many of you have surveillance at your homes? Yeah, we're on surveillance in a lot of places we go, folks. And so you must leave your personal self at home and bring only your professional self to the job. What that means, folks, is you don't get paid to have a bad day. You do not get paid to have a bad day. I once had a fellow worker stop in at my office because I would be under budget time frames and dealing with representatives who were angry that constituents had called them, and sometimes I wasn't bringing my professional face to the crew in the morning, and she simply said to me, "I just want you to know one thing, Kevin." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "When you have a bad day, everybody has a bad day." And I went, "Oh no, thank you for sharing that with me." Because she was absolutely right. When I showed up and I'm having a bad day, guess what? I'm affecting everybody. So, and people are willing to videotape you and your performance, and it takes less than 4 seconds to post it on social media. And what type of videos do we see on social media? Are they the real loving, caring kind? Or are they what are they? They're the kind where people are making mistakes and doing wrong. I don't want to be on those videos, okay? So, the goal of professionalism is to minimize the potential for resistance, and I'll give you the end in a moment after you write that in. The goal of professionalism is to minimize potential for resistance and generate voluntary compliance. Now, generate voluntary compliance, and you'll hear me refer to it as we move through the day as GVC. That's basic. That's, I need you to do it, and I need you to please do it now. But I'm going to ask you to look for opportunities to include through collaboration and cooperation. How many of you have what I call frequent flyers? You know what frequent flyers are? They're the people who used to call me monthly, every 3 months, every 6 months, every time they saw a vehicle they didn't recognize outside the office. Those are the frequent flyers. Those are the people that I was dealing with on a GVC, Generate Voluntary Compliance level. But when you can take an opportunity, and it takes more work, folks, to collaborate and cooperate, those are the people that then became my advocates in the parks. Because I spent a little bit more time investing in that relationship. And I say to you again, if the only time we're talking to our customers is when they're doing something wrong, you know, I hand out these tattoos, and I've got some for your great-grandkids, I haven't forgotten. And I would see a family at a picnic table, and I'd pull up in the vehicle, uniform on, and I'd get out and I'd start over to give those kids tattoos. You should have saw the look on their faces. You know what the look on their face was? We paid the fee. The dog's on a leash. There's no garbage on the ground. What does he want? And I'd say, I just wanted to thank you and your family for using Oregon State Parks, and I have some tattoos for the kids, and they would take them and go, yeah. Folks, the reason why, and I have some pins that I brought as well for you folks, some of you, and a couple of Oregon Heritage playing cards. The reason I carried these were I wanted to reinforce the positive behavior. First time I said, hey, thank you for having your dog on the leash. Yeah, They're waiting on the hammer to drop, because the only time we talk to them is when they're doing something wrong. How about saying, hey, thank you for being a customer of this transit system. Thank you for, and by the way, I looked on the website. Do you guys have mission statements? Huh? What are they? Can anybody half verbalize? Well, you don't have to give me the whole thing. What's your mission statement? Oh, then what are you doing at work every day? Here, let me give you Oregon State Parks: to provide and protect outstanding natural, scenic, cultural, historic, and recreational sites for the enjoyment of current and present and future generations. I'm not saying you have to know it word for word, but shouldn't you have an idea of why you're at where you're at and the service that you provide? So, GVC, Generate Voluntary Compliance, through collaboration and cooperation, which is a much higher level, folks. We're going to talk about moving beyond words. There are 5 times verbal judo works, and we talks about, but there are 5 conditions when words fail. And when those occur, you need to act, ACT, actions consistent with training. Whatever the expectation is of your agency or your company during those times. The acronym SAFER, S-A-F-E-R, the S stands for security. Whenever others are in imminent jeopardy, or whenever property under your control is threatened, you should act. And tell me, what is your act in those situations? Whenever others are in imminent jeopardy, whenever property under your control is in danger, what is the expectation that you do in those situations? So that might mean removing everybody from the situation. Thank you for your time, sir. I'm sorry we couldn't come to an agreement. And removing yourself from the situation. The A stands for attack. Whenever your PDZ, your personal danger zone, PDZ is infringed upon, is violated, you should act based upon your training and your situation. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you see me and I start pulling off jewelry and rolling my sleeves up, what does that mean?
Fight, probably.
We're not going to have tea and crumpets?
No, I hope not.
It's go time, folks. You shouldn't be one. I wonder if he's having an asthma attack. No. At that point, notice what my hands do. What does that mean to anybody who might be looking? So I give. What does this mean? Yeah. So I want those cameras and everybody, because people are filming. I want, sir, for your safety and mine. Now, notice who I put first. Your safety and I didn't say for my safety, I really don't give a damn. No. For your safety and mine. So, based upon attack, the A in SAFER is attack. Folks, we should be looking for those signs that people might be escalating to a physical attack. The F stands for flight or fear. You know, for police officers, it's flight because and even in my job as a park manager, it was odd when people would run from me because I didn't have police authority, and I explained that at the beginning. I didn't want any misperception. But the fear is for most of you, I think. Folks, how many times have you heard someone say, you know, I just didn't feel right, but I didn't want to say anything? No. If it don't feel right, maybe say something or remove yourself from the situation. It's that sense that comes to mind of, this is not a safe situation, okay? The E stands for excessive repetition. Here, I've got to go back to my folks who weren't even born when I started with tape five. Tell me, do you know what an album is? Huh?
It's a group.
No, a piece of vinyl.
I had them in our record player Apple.
Oh, so you see, and what happens to a piece of vinyl when it gets scratched? Tell me something. Have you ever gotten in a conversation where you just kept going around and around and around and you didn't know how to get out, okay? Folks.
I think I did it early, sorry.
Right when I was on a run, you had to do that. We're going to take that break in just a moment. But that excessive repetition, let me see a show of hands. How many of you have been caught in that situation where you just kept going around and around and around, and the conversation, I'm going to teach you how to stay out of that. That's one of the easiest things you can do. But if you get into a conversation and it's continually excessive repetition and you've asked different questions, it's time to act. You've exhausted all verbal options. No voluntary compliance is forthcoming. And the R stands for revised priorities. Whenever a matter of a higher priority, immediate attention, or presence, remember, unaddressed behavior is condoned behavior. So, let's see, I'm a transport driver, and I've got a bit of an argument on the bus, but I have a small child wandering in the seat, in the street. What's probably the higher priority? The small child, yeah, it revised priorities. So whenever a matter of a higher priority requires immediate attention, so the 5 times that words fail are safer. S is security, A is attack, F is fear or flight, E is excessive repetition, and the R is revised priorities. Why don't we take 10 minutes and come back, and then we'll go till noon. So, any questions on anything we've covered so far? Remember SAFER, S-A-F-E-R, security, attack, flight/fear. Yes?
Well, I have a question of you, Kevin. Why did you leave your in-state parks and recreation?
Why did I?
Leave there.
Because I figured I'd given them 35 years. That was more than enough of my time. And I want you to know, retirement for the most part is nice. You know, I take naps during the day now, something I used to fight. And so I just thought it was time to move on. And I do volunteer a lot of time with different agencies and donate toward the food bank, because I think that's important.
Well, we got about 2 hours till nap time.
Yeah, well, they're giving us an hour and a half lunch, so I think from 12 to 1:30. So, all right. So, this next page are the 5 universal truths, but I don't want you to write those down yet. I'm going to see how close you guys can hit these, because what Dr. Thompson thought was, rather than focus on how people are different, how about we focus on how people are alike? So, at work, I want to be treated with blank and blank. What do you think goes in there?
Love and respect.
I want to be blank rather than being told to do something. I want to be blank why I am being asked to do something. We'll come back to it. Inform. I want to be given blank rather than threats.
Options.
Respect.
And last, if I make a mistake, I want a blank chance. So, let's get them written in here. According to Dr. Thompson, as I mentioned, instead of focusing on how people are different, we should focus on how people are the same. There are your responses, folks. The 5 universal truths that verbal judo is built upon. And I'll give you just a quick second to write those in. And the first one is, all people want to be treated with dignity and respect. And I might even have you add in at the end of that, no matter what the circumstances. Look, folks, even when I'm wrong, I want to be treated with dignity and respect. You know, Dr. Thompson used to remind us, if you treat a person like a dog, expect to get bit. If you're going to treat, especially if you're going to treat someone like a dog in front of their children, in front of their significant other, in front of their friends, you should expect to get bit. All people want to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter what the circumstances. All people want to be asked rather than told to do something. Tell me, Patrick, does this sound different? Hey, you, get over here. Excuse me, could I speak to you for a moment, please? Yeah. All people would rather be asked than told to do something, folks. And look, all people want to know why they're being asked to do something. And we should be able to explain that to them. Not because it's the rule, not because Oregon Administrative Rules says, folks, we should be able to verbalize why we have an expectation, whether it's for safety reasons, if we need someone to stay behind a particular barrier, if we need someone to put a mask on. We should be able to the reason we have you wear a mask, sir, it's not only for the protection of everyone else, but especially for the protection of you and your family. You know, you go home in the evening. You certainly wouldn't want to take this situation into your household. Can I please get, notice, I didn't, not heavy-handed, explaining why. And do you know why you have an expectation of the rules that you enforce? You should figure that out, and you folks can work on those together. All people want to be given options rather than threats. Now that goes against everything we were brought up to believe, doesn't it? That's what our parents did, was threaten us. Didn't they? Hey, I still hate that peach tree that I had to go get that switch from in the backyard. We give threats. That's what our parents did to us. I would have much rather had options. First, by the way, the reason we say options, you always got threats. Why would you ever start with them? I used to remind my staff of this important thing. Never ever start with, this is the last time I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you again. You know why? Because I'm going to make you tell me again. And when you have to, then you're stuck. Because you've already said you're not going to tell me again. All people would much rather have options than threats. You know, you talk about this working at home. My stepson, I remember when he was about 12, he wanted to go visit some friends, but we had agreed he was going to do certain chores. And he hadn't done them. Now, the typical response is, if you don't do them, I simply said, you know, Tyler, I know you want to go see your friends, and I want you to go see your friends. However, we had an agreement that you were going to do these chores before this time. Now, short of me doing these chores for you, I'm here to help you in any other way I can. I hope you make the right decision. I know you will, because I want you to go see your friends too. You let me know what your decision is. Options rather than threats. He did the chores because I laid out options. We tend to dig in. And by the way, folks, anytime you introduce an authoritative figure into the situation, the dynamics change. You don't believe me? Patrick, tell us about the last time you were driving down the highway or the roadway, since you commute, and a police officer pulled in behind you, didn't turn the lights on. What did you do?
I feel like everyone gets a little nervous.
But what did you do? You checked your speed. Yeah, you checked your speed, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And Patrick, nothing, no offense, but you don't look like a turn signal type person to me. You probably started using those turn signals, huh? Why is that, folks? An authoritative figure was introduced into the situation. What do you think you are? What do you think you are to your customers? You are that authoritative figure, so understand the dynamics there. All people would rather be given options than threats. When we make mistakes, all people want a second chance, don't we? My niece used to say when we played board games, do over, Uncle Kevin. Folks, people, Dr. Thompson used to remind us, people aren't evil, they're just flawed sometimes. Sometimes the baggage they bring in, we'll talk about that. So, 5 universal truths, this is what the training is built upon. Mushin. Let me see something. Oh, Mushin, no mind, disinterested, non-biased, open, flexible, and unbiased. All right. I have given every class that I have ever taught, and I'm in the hundreds, folks, this test, and I'm going to give it to you. And I'll tell you what I'll do. If 5 of you get the answer right, I'll let the rest of you do whatever you want the rest of the day. How does that sound? Only 5 of you have to finish the phrase. Are you ready? I'm sorry, are you ready? Yes. So you need to finish the phrase. That's all you have to do. Here we go. Man throws spear at head. Let me try it again. Finish the phrase. Man throws spear at head. What the hell did the rest of you do? Just stand there? Let's try it again. Who was that who said duck? Thank you, Kevin. I knew you and I were on the same wavelength. Man throws spear at head. Move head. Yeah, spear stuck in wall, man disarm. So tell me something. Why is it that when person throws spear of insult, do we take it full brunt? Here, I know you can finish this one. Sticks and stones may break my bones. There's been no bigger lie you've been told in your life, folks. Words were meant to hurt, weren't they? Think about that. You know something? I just told you, I used to get whooped. Used to tell my mother, you know, you'd be put in jail for child abuse for the stuff now, these days. Folks, it's not the whoopings that I remember. You know what I remember? It's those things that were said to me out of anger from someone who I felt loved me. We all carry that baggage, don't we? It's not those whoopings. Hey, I could care less about those. It's those things that were said to me that stuck with me my entire life. There's been no bigger lie than sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, because words were meant to hurt. That's why people use them in the fashion that they do. And we're going to talk about that deflection. But mushin, the prefix means no. Shin, the suffix means mind. Disinterested, which is different than uninterested. Disinterested means I don't have a dog in the fight. Uninterested is I don't care. Okay? Open, flexible, and unbiased. I used to ask my staff a question anytime they had to deal with a customer. If you've already determined the outcome, how can the outcome be anything other than what you've already determined it's going to be? I went into every situation open and unbiased. You remember the lady who was taking her dog to the vet to have him put down? Imagine if I had a closed mind and didn't go into it open and unbiased. And first response is, ma'am, you don't get that dog on a leash, we're going to cite you. That's typically what we do, is we threaten to get compliance. I went in open, and I'm going to teach you this process. You notice I said, is there a justified reason? That's because now I'm listening for bait, and we'll talk about that. Principles of disinterested. Always keep your professional face. Always treat others as you would want to be treated under identical circumstances. Never inflate people with adrenaline. I never wanted to be the straw that broke the camel's back. We don't know what baggage people are carrying, folks. We don't know what burdens they're bringing to us. Flexibility is strength. Rigidity is weakness. When we're rigid. I'm always flexible, remember? Nuclear holocaust, burnt toast. They sit on the burnt toast end. I can be a little flexible. Redirect rather than resist. Redirection rather than resist, because we in our society have a habit. We need to be able to read people, intellectual differences, and there are many cultures. Did you know there's roughly 127 recognized cultures in the United States? How many do you think you're experts with? How many?
Barely the one I'm in.
I'm probably 0. I don't even think I can do the one I'm in. So, Verbal judo breaks it down into 3 behaviors of people. Now, this is where somebody who told me they were a difficult person. Yes, I'm a difficult person too, and we'll talk about that. The first type of people, they're called nice people. How many of you think you're nice people? Put your hands down. You're not nice people. Nice people are single-keyed people. They will do what you want, when you want, every time that you ask them. Doesn't matter how you treat them, how you speak to them. Nice people, and I'll explain the symbolism of the key in a moment. Nice people are single-keyed people. They will do what you want, when you want, every time that you ask them. My grandfather was a nice person. It didn't matter how the police spoke to him. It was always yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, because his respect for the law was greater than how they could have treated him. So nice people are single-keyed people. They'll do what you want, when you want, every time that you ask them. You notice there's some erosion around nice people. They're starting to get frustrated and don't feel that we always deal with the people who aren't compliant. The next group of people, this is the category that I think most of you fit into. There might be one nice person in this room, but I don't know much more. We're called difficult people. And difficult people ask the #1 question in America. What do we want to know? We want to know why. And I got to tell you something, folks. If your why doesn't make sense to me, I'm not doing it. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not doing it. We want to know why, okay? How many of you have teenagers or grown kids or grandkids? They ask that #1 question, why, don't they? Yeah, and you notice we're multi-keyed people. We typically won't do what you want the first, the second, the third, but by the 3rd or the 4th time, if you give us just reason, we'll do it, okay? It's sort of like the key symbolism. I want you to think about, have you ever gone to a lock and put a key in it and it didn't work? You pulled that key out and you looked at it, and what did you do with it? You put it back in the lock. And you tried it again, and it didn't work again. And this time you pulled it out, you put it back in, but you didn't put it back in the whole way, did you, Kevin? And you jiggled it a little. And if you're anything like my friend here, you pulled it out thinking you have some type of magic breath, and you blew on that key, and what did you do? You stuck it back in that lock. Folks, communication works the same way. Why would you keep trying the same key of communication if it didn't work the first time? I'm going to teach you how to try different keys. Difficult people will typically do what you want us to do. You just have to give us just reason. I want to give you an example. I had a friend who was a bartender, and I went to visit him at his bar, and I was about 45 years old at the time. So I left my ID in the car, and I walk up to the front, and there's a bouncer there, and he goes, ID, and I said, come on, dude. And he said, it's the law. Stop there. Remember I told you Difficult Kevin used to work for the Portland Trail Blazers? Alcohol monitor supervisor? That's not the law. You know what the law says? The law says anybody who appears to be under the age of 28 has to provide identification. Now, individual establishments can have their own rules. So what do you think Difficult Kevin's response was to it's the law? Well, the front part of it was bull, and I'll let you finish the rest. And we started to argue. And I said, he said, well, everybody has to have identification. And I said, so you're telling me if my grandmother and grandfather walked through that door, you'd make them give you identification? And he said, no, that would be ridiculous. I'm reeling him in now, Patrick. He just contradicted himself. And the manager hears this, and he knew me, and he came and said, Kevin, what's going on? And I said, it's your boy. He's full of it. And he said, Kevin, let me show you something. He said, behind this pedestal, we have this machine. And this machine takes a picture of everyone's ID so that we know who's been in this establishment. What do you think Difficult Kevin's response was to that? Why didn't he just say so? Why did he lie to me? Okay? We are going to call you on it, folks. I tell you, and I think most of us want to know why. The third type of people, I hope none of you fit into this category. They're called deceptive people, and they look like nice people. But you notice there's a cloud of illusion about deceptive people, huh? You know who deceptive people were for me in the parks? They're the people who I spoke to about putting their dog on a leash, and they'd say, okay, and the moment they got out of sight, what would they do? They'd take the dog back off the leash. Yeah, they've got their fingers crossed behind their back. They're deceptive. And you notice there's two types of deceptive people. They're the wimps. You've dealt with the wimps before, haven't you? They're the type of people that go, you know what, you're absolutely right. That was really stupid of me. I don't know what I was thinking. Who the hell does he think he was talking to? I dare him talk to me like that. And I call you in, Patrick, and say, what happened out there? And you go, nothing, it was great. No, it wasn't. I just got a call. Those are the deceptive people. The other kind are what we call wolves. They're looking to do bad. They're looking for trouble, okay? You must be skilled with all three. So I have a question. Nice, difficult, or deceptive? Which of the three would you most rather deal with? Let me see how many nice. How many difficult? How many deceptive? For me, folks, it's difficult. Because difficult people keep me on my toes. Difficult people force me to answer why. Okay? And frankly, I don't have a problem with that. As we're going to talk about, as your ego goes up, your power and safety go down. And Doug Haig quoted this phrase, it's a race to the why. Whoever controls the why controls the conversation, the dialogue. And I'm going to teach you how to get to the why first. When you're dealing with a customer, you'll get to the why first, so you'll control the dialogue, okay? I have another video, and this one you'll have to listen very closely. It's a little boy who is questioning a motorcycle cop. Here we go. And we'll turn it up.
Hello? Is there a reason for you to park on the sidewalk? Is it like an emergency or anything? Oh. Can I see your badge number? Because I have the right to.
You do, huh?
Yeah.
Is he your lawyer?
No, I just want to see your badge number. Can I please see your badge number? Really? Huh? No, I'm minor. I'm Jeremy Drew. I'm Jeremy. I don't know, but is it an emergency why you can park a motorized vehicle on the sidewalk? Yeah. Yes. Because I don't think it's necessary to park your motorized vehicle on the sidewalk. No, I'm actually mailing this. Huh? I'm filming. Yeah. Alright, well, can I see your badge number? Yeah? Alright.
How do you think that interaction went?
What a gutty kid.
He had a point.
Oh, I keep going back. We'll get there. What did you think of Jeremy?
He went straight to the point, like, what he wasn't confrontational, I feel, more than just questioning.
What did you think of the officer's response?
I couldn't hear him.
It was hard to.
That's because he started the motorcycle. He did that on purpose. How do you think that portrayed him in the Las Vegas Sheriff's Department? Folks, and from my understanding, you're monetized when you get, you monetize a certain amount of money when you get every million posts or views. I think this video got something like 5 million. Tell me, was there a reason why the police officer should park on the? Are you sure? How about this? How about this? You know, Jeremy, the reason that I parked a motorcycle in my site is I have a lot of valuable public equipment on this motorcycle, and given enough time, people can either pry off some of that equipment or even vandalize it. I wouldn't want that to happen. And I also sometimes am required to immediately respond to situations. He went into the mode of, because I can, because I said so. And that's the wrong way to approach it. What else did you notice? Yeah, you couldn't hear him because he starts the motorcycle to drown the kid out. And so he went into that mode of, it's because I can. And then, I don't know if you could hear, he pretty much threatened the kid. Do you have ID? He's a 12-year-old kid, okay? So that was an opportunity. So I ask you this question. Nice, difficult, or deceptive? What was Jeremy?
Difficult. It was difficult. And a little deceptive.
Ah, he might have moved into deceptive. I agree with you. Because how many 12-year-olds do you know would ask that question? He was probably put up to it a bit, so there was a bit of deception. But yes, I think you're right. He was being more difficult. Next page. I'm going to give you a chance to write this one in. Some of you talked about how you deal with situations, and this is the anatomy of a verbal attack. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds. Now, for the purpose of this, we're all two-faced, in a sense. On the left, we have our professional face. Our personal face, are our biases, explicit and implicit. Our personal belief system, what I was brought up to believe, what's right or wrong. My parents would teach me, don't lie, don't steal. I don't respect those values. Subject wants you to perform your personal face, your biases. You know, how many of you get offended when people use curse words? Yeah, they want you to use your personal face. They want to gain access to that portion, because then what are we discussing? We're discussing what they want to discuss. When you're in personal face, they decide. They have all the power. When you're in personal face, they have all the power, as opposed to your professional face, okay? People are trying to, we listed several of those, gender, threats, physical attributes, age. By the way, I'm looking for every senior discount I can find on the books now. I want to know if you got a senior discount, I want it, okay? I used to cringe at that, but now I want it. Sometimes religion, race, politics is a big one now, isn't it? Yeah. Education, economic status, sexual orientation, authority. For us guys in the room, you've never heard, can I speak to a man? Yeah, you know. You've heard that, huh? Yeah, as if, oh, I'm sorry, we got a different rule book if you speak to a man. We all playing by the same rules, folks. And so your ego is the on-ramp to your personal face. And so what we teach you is to build a roadblock, a ramp closed, so that people cannot gain access to your personal face. I'll share a story. I had a situation in the park. An individual had driven in under the intoxication, and I had a sheriff who had responded, and he was arresting him for DUI. And as I was standing there, I stopped counting at the 36th N-word. I just stopped counting. And at one point, as the officer was putting him into the vehicle, he said, "How do you take that?" And I looked at him and smiled and said, "Take what?" Did he think it was going to mean any more? The 1st, the 3rd, the 7th, the 15th, the 20th? Folks, let's try it again. Man throw spear at head. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling the love. Let's try it again. Man throw spear at head. Move head, yeah, spear stuck in what? He had thrown that spear already. Didn't matter to me. He could have said it 100 times. It's not like I haven't heard that one before, right? So, you know, we don't allow people to access our personal face, because that's what people want us to do. We stay in professional face mode. Now, have you thought about those times when people have been able to access your personal face instead of your professional face? Okay? And we've got about 30 minutes. So the natural reaction to confrontation is confrontation. And if you don't believe me, I want you to think about the last time you were driving down the roadway and somebody flipped somebody off. What did the other person do? What did the other person do? They flipped them off back. Yeah. Confrontation begets confrontation.
Well, they use both hands.
Yeah, I need more time with you, all right? But the studied response is deflection and redirection. This is where some of you ask the question, how do I handle verbal abuse? We call these deflector phrases. Deflection phrases are those phrases which deflect and keep us on point. Here's something that most of you hadn't thought about today. People aren't complicated. When you ask them to do something, you're going to get one of three answers. You're either going to get a yes, a no, or something that sounds like no. You know what something that sounds like no? Well, what about them over there? Nothing that's something that's, see, once you realize what people are doing to you, now you'll be able to smile. And we teach deflection rather than redirection. And so we give you these phrases, appreciate that, but or and. Some people don't like to use but, because that brings me back to what I want to talk about. I understand that. However, oh yes, I've even used these. However, could I please get you to, because now there are three types of deflection phrases. You're looking at the very basic, but when you combine two of them together, Patrick, it sounds more natural. I'm sorry you feel that way, and you're not the first to share that with me. However, could I please get you to put your dog on a leash? You know, the governor. The third type are when you personalize, when you listen to what the information that people give you and you use it back. Remember I said, well, what about them over there? Thank you for sharing that with me, sir. And as soon as we finish here, I'm going to be headed over there. Say it with me. However, could I please get you? Because what does that do? That brings me back to what I'm there to talk about, not what they want to talk about. Personalized. I got to tell you, I had a situation where a dog was off a leash, and my volunteers and staff used to think, ha, 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 you're going to go tell that person he can't have his dog off a leash? What time is it? It's showtime. Folks, everything. Look, it doesn't matter to me what his response is, because I'm going to be polite, professional, and courteous every time. You got a problem? Ain't my problem. Your problem. And I walked out and I said, good afternoon, sir. My name's Kevin Price. I'm a park manager with the Oregon Parks and Rec Department. The reason I stopped by today was I noticed your dog off a leash in an area where dogs need to be on a leash. Is there a justified reason for that, sir? And he looked at me and he said, yeah, my dog lives a free life. Now, most of us would get angry about that. I smiled. Remember, he gives me bait. And I smiled and said, thank you for sharing that with me, sir. And your dog can certainly do that, as long as it's not in an Oregon State Park. Say it with me. However, no, however is that springboard, but or and, because that brings me back. Am I there to talk about whether his dog lives a free life? Honestly, now think about the times you were drugging the conversations that you weren't even there to have, because somebody put you on the defensive. Deflection and redirection. You know, is there a justified reason why you won't wear a mask, sir, while on the bus? Yeah, my freedoms. You know, thank you for sharing that with me, sir. And I believe freedoms are important as well. With me? I need you to put the damn no. Look, folks, do you see how it springboards you back to what you are there to talk about? And this illustration gives you that. It springboards you over the muck that people want to drag you into. They want you to talk about, sometimes people consider the best defense is a good offense. If they can get you backpedaling, they're talking about what they want to talk about. I'm sorry you feel that way, and you're not the first to share that with me. However, could I please get you to, because see, it's back to what I'm there. And I've even had people say, well, you don't like white people. And I go, well, you're right. No, I don't say that. You don't like white people. Sir, I'm sorry you feel that way, and we can have that discussion in a moment. Say it with me. It's back to what I'm there to talk about. And sometimes I've had people go, I say, now you said you had a, never mind, because it didn't work. Think about the times that you've been drug into these conversations and you weren't there to have that conversation. This keeps us on point, no matter what people say. And remember, yes, no, or something that sounds like no. I used to hear, because I was a state employee, well, the governor. Thank you for sharing that with me, and I'm sure others have similar viewpoints. Say it with me. Could I please get you to? Because it's back to what I am there to discuss. Now, some people don't like to use but because they say that sounds dismissive. So, and, however, I used but most of my career, and most people didn't have a problem with it. Now, there are also what we call, peace phrases. A peace phrase is any phrase that softens a contact. You know, I used one in the grocery store just the other day. I was walking around a corner, and this little kid, about 12 years old, was pushing the buggy basket for his mother, and he almost ran into me. And his mother immediately said, "I'm so sorry." And I smiled and said, "Ma'am, if that's the worst thing I got to worry about today, I think I'm going to have a pretty good day, don't you?" Softens the contact. Can I get you to work with me, please, on this? Softens the contact. You're not in it by yourself. We're in it together, okay? So we utilize peace phrases to soften that contact. Deflection phrases are these single phrases. That's interesting, and that's something I don't think I've heard before. However, could I please, and notice it's professional language. What do you hear after that? Could I please get you to? Remember, universal truth. People would much rather be asked than told to do something. So it all falls together. So, give me a deflection phrase. Help her out. She's got a lifeline. Help her out. No, what's a deflection? Thanks for sharing that with me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I get that. I understand that.
Sorry you feel that way.
And then finish. You see, you got to get that and, however, or but in there, because that springboards you back to what you're there to talk about. Give me a deflection phrase.
I understand that. However.
Very good. Combine two together.
Sorry you feel that way. I understand you have strong feelings about that. However.
Very good. Folks, look, you know that something that sounds like no's are the no's that you get from your customers already. You should be developing these deflection phrases. Yes?
Yeah, but I've used the phrase, "I know how you feel," and that doesn't
work. Sometimes you don't know what I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what I'd say after that? You're absolutely right, and I'd like to apologize for that. Say it with me. I'm back to what I'm there to talk about, folks. You know, now that you recognize what people have been doing to you all of this time, they drag you down rabbit holes. We call it, you know, I have one instructor who calls it the litter box with, what is it, Armin Roca. The litter box, you know, your cat litter box. People want you to play on their, I refuse to play on their playground. I refuse to play where they want me to play because they're trying to drag my personal face into the discussion, and I'm staying professional. It's an opportunity to deflect and redirect. That's interesting. And as soon as I get back to the office, I'm going to follow up on that. Say it with me. You know, how many of you have heard, well, the last person I spoke to, they told me something different. You know, I'd like to apologize for that. And as soon as we finish here, I'm going to follow up with my supervisor concerning that. Say it with me.
However.
See, look, folks, it gets you back 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, before lunch? Yes. Oh, we only have 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm not used to eating this much, I got to tell you. Do you see, folks, how that deflection gets you back to what you're there to talk about. Because people want to talk about what they want to talk about. You know, this is bull. You guys are just messing with me. I'm sorry you feel that way, and that certainly isn't our intention. However, could I please get you to? Because I'm not there to talk about how Patrick treated him 6 months ago or a week ago. You know, I'm there to deal with the behavior at hand. We are not there to teach people lessons. We're not there to change their minds. We're there to deal with the behavior at hand that we're dealing with. That's what we need to deal with. Are you good at changing people's minds, especially when people don't like to admit they're wrong? Probably not. So it's an opportunity. So we'll finish these up. The reasons we do these, it makes you feel good. I got to tell you, the first time I did it and it worked, I thought, hey, there's some magic to this, because it actually kept me on point. It didn't allow me to get drugged down a rabbit hole. The springboard focus technique. It springboards me back to what I am there to talk about, not what somebody else wants to talk about. Well, you state employees, you're worthless, and we pay your wages. I'm sorry you feel that we're worthless, sir, and certainly one thing you need to be aware of is we don't receive tax dollars. Say it with me. However, back to what I'm there. Respectfully manages the conversation, doesn't it? It respectfully manages the conversation. And doesn't it just sound good? It's not intrusive. It's not attacking. I want you folks to notice how I word things when I approach people about stuff. Failure to no pay. You know what my initial response is to that? I didn't see a valid day use permit displayed on your dashboard. Am I accusing Patrick of not having one? I just don't see it. Giving him the benefit of the doubt. And my staff used to say to me, why? Kevin, most of the time people don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. And my response was, what are you giving up that's so important? And we'll end here. 3 principles of verbal judo. Say what you want, do what I say. We're wrapping up. Say what you want, do what I say. We've got the last act, actions consistent with training. I'll give you the last word. Tell me something. How many of you have played the last word game? Come on, you got kids. You've played the last word game with your significant other. You know it. You know what it is. We as human beings like to get the last word in, don't we? Huh? You know, my mother was an expert at the last word game. She would beat me. You know, when I was a small child, I remember getting frustrated with her, and I'd say something I didn't mean, and I'd say, oh, I hate you. And she'd say, what did you say? And what was my response? Oh, you've been there. Yeah, nothing. And my mother would say, that's what I thought you said. And then she'd drop the mic on me. You know what she'd say? Now say nothing again. Game over. So I'm going to teach you how to win. You know how to win at the last word game?
Yeah, say thank you.
Don't play. You can't win. There's no winning. I got to give you this example. You know, it came no truer. I was at one of my parks, and it was evening, and this person was parked in an ADA spot without an ADA placard. What time is it? Yeah, and I was doing everything right. I was deflecting, and you know what something that sounded like no was to me? There's nobody here with an ADA placard. If somebody shows up, I'll move. But that didn't bother me, Lance. I was deflecting, and she finally said, okay, I'll move. And I turned to walk away, and I heard, asshole. And I stopped, and I turned around. And I asked at the time what I thought was a very innocent question. What do you think I asked? What did you say? What do you think we spent the next 15 minutes discussing? She was already moving. My ego got into play, okay? My ego got in. Say what you want, do what I say. I've got the last act. I give you the last word. Who cares? After that lesson I learned, if I heard a-hole, I just kept walking because Patrick's already doing what I needed him to do. We don't allow our ego to get in. Say what you want, do what I say. We've got the last act. I'll give you the last word. And the last one is respect versus respect. Now the second one is a personal value system, which must be earned. I do not respect the values of a child molester, of a rapist, of a liar, of a murderer. I don't respect those values. But I show everyone respect, which is freely given. Personal values must be earned. Respect, I give to everyone. And I saw this really come to light when my staff dealt with the houseless. Because the way we treated them, and they would say, we treat them like we do everybody else. No, we don't. We treat them differently. We talk down to them. We already think there's going to be a problem before we even have engaged. We show everybody respect, okay? Dr. Thompson used to tell a story. He went to prison and did some interviews, and he said the prisoners told him, look, I crossed the line. And I know I crossed the line. And it's his job to put me back across that line. But he needs to do it with respect. Disrespect is dism, and dism is death. Okay? He needs to put me back across that line, but he needs to show me respect in doing so, not talk down to me. Have you ever had fellow co-workers that you saw talk down to a customer out of anger or frustration? Folks, we're going to talk about after lunch. We should step into those situations and help resolve them and not, remember, unaddressed behavior is condoned behavior. So the three principles: say what you want, do what I say. We get the last act, I'll give you the last word. Respect, which is freely given, versus respect, which is a personal value system which must be earned. So, are there any questions about any of the stuff we've covered so far? We're going to have to pick it up here. I don't think I have 2 hours left with you guys. So, we'll get through it though. Any questions that you come up with over lunch, because they told me I need to get you out of here. Is that correct? Yes, sir. All right. So, any questions or comments? Am I not making it too boring, Kevin? Well, hopefully we'll see you back at lunch, because we'll get into the basics. And the basics that we're going to get into, you heard me use them. We call it the 8-step. It's a greeting, ID who you are and who you work for, reason you're there. Is there a justified reason? And if not, can I please get you to comply with my request? And that's the basic of what we'll learn after lunch.